Yeah, sorry about that. I think back. I'm live now. I was trying to set up and my system was messing up, and yeah, it's been a busy couple of days now. But I'm just gonna run into like some of the things I am supposed to do today. I want to talk a little bit about like boss good is it good evening? Yeah, it should be good evening for you. I want to talk about like some of the things to expect from the TC39 meeting. TC39 team had a meeting during the week. Yeah. And we have some interesting stuff that are coming to JavaScript. So I'm just going to talk about them very fast and probably drop you link to places where you can get to know about those things that are coming to JS. And yeah, we have I think we have Signal. I don't know if anybody knows anything about Signal. The Quadri, how are you? I don't know if anybody knows anything about Signal. Signal is how do I explain Signal now? Signal is just making JavaScript variable, so just the way we have state in something like React, right? And yeah, it's been a while, Abdul. Just the way we have state in React, and anytime you call like you set state on that particular variable, right? Everywhere you use that variable, the values will be updated, right? That's the same thing with Signal, and that's a proposal that I think the team behind that proposal is Signals. I think is the um I think is the team that did. There's one framework called Solid. I think um is the Solid team, or I don't know whether it's a Solid team or the Angular team that is behind that proposal. So the idea is to add signals to JavaScript. So basically, what it's going to be bringing to us is it's going to give us a reactive variable. Just give us variables that are reactive, and that way, we can always have reactive variable. We don't really have reactive variable, right? What's going on? Can anybody hear me? I think you should be able to hear me now. Uh, can anybody hear me? I think so. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong. Something is just wrong. Everything is just messed up. Um, so I was trying to say something about um some of the stuff that are coming to JavaScript, some of the new things that are coming to JavaScript. That's why we have like a couple of interesting new things that are coming to JavaScript. And one of the things that I said is coming to JavaScript is the signals. I think signals just entered into it just entered into um it just entered into like stage one. I think I've explained, anybody who knows the TC39 process is that we have the different stage of all these things, right? We have the different stages, right? Stage one, stage two, stage three, and stage four. And most of the time, anything that gets to stage four definitely would get into JavaScript, most likely. Anything that gets into stage four gets into JavaScript. So we have like the array.signals. As not just array.signals, I have signals basically. Then we have set methods. So the data structure inside JavaScript that is called set is bringing in some new things, right? Some new things like intersection. I think they would have a method for intersection, union, and some other things. I can't remember what the other things are going to be, but I know that there's going to be some interesting things coming to JavaScript set methods, right? And I think that should be stage four. So for that stage four, it is most likely going to enter into JavaScript, right? It is most likely going to enter into JavaScript. That is like it's very solid. It's very certain that it's going to enter into JavaScript. So I'll show. I'm trying to share my screen so that I can show you right some of the things to expect. Then before I jump into my business for the day, and so I don't know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? But I have to zoom it out a little bit so that you can sort of like see. So if you want to really catch many things that is going on, right, you can follow Rob Palmer. Rob Palmer is part of the persons, is part of like one of the co-chairs of TC39, right? And yeah, so you have regular expression, duplicate named cap groups is on stage four. We have set method on stage four. We have eval for trusted types on stage three. We have eval injected global var is redeclarable on stage three. Then we have math.sum, which is so instead of they don't want to use sum, right? They are using sum precise. I think a particular AP library already implements sum, so they are using math.sum. So instantly in your JavaScript, you'll be able to do sum without writing the addition function, right, in your JavaScript. And this is in stage 2.7. We have promise.try, and we have error dot is error on stage one, right? So this is just a way to know if something is an error. Then we have signals, as I was saying. Then we have strict using. So I guess this is going to be coming because of most of the changes that are coming to React and Next.js. So you can start declaring something like use client or use server, right? And so they're trying to make sure that anytime you declare using something, right, it's going to be like a strict mode right there. So basically, these are the stuffs that are coming to your JavaScript. The link, I'm going to drop the link to these inside of the chart here so that you can have access to it. For anybody who wants to have access to it, there you can follow up there. And you also have array.last. Array.last was rejected because we have array.heart. So array.at -1 gives us the last item. Then this is signals if you want to look at what signal is all about. Then we have error.is error. Then we have math.sum precise. Then promise.try, set methods, and so you can see the full details of that right there. So but it's good to know like what is coming to JavaScript. And for those things that are in stage 4, I think now the browsers are going to be implementing them. That's like the major thing that is coming next. So the browsers will try to implement, and once the browsers tries to implement, then developers start using them, and then they start testing and taking feedbacks before like all the browsers accept them thereabout. So yeah, basically that's all the stuff that we have coming. And if you want to go into like deeper stuff with them, you can always go to like the TC39 repo. You can go to their repo on GitHub. So if you go to their repo on GitHub, you'll be able to play with all these things. You'll be able to see all the codes, right? All the codes that powers all the codes that powers all these new ones. So you can come to somewhere like this active proposals, right? And it will tell you like you'll be able to see yeah, all the proposals that you have. So if you look at stage 2.7, right, we have this promise.try. So if you want to go to promise.try, you can right click, right? And then you'll be able to see what promise.try is all about, right? So you'll be able to get an idea of what promise.try is all about. And if you want to read more about promise.try, how to use it, right? But the major thing is that the function may be async and return a promise, or it may not. I do not wish to have to know. However, if I did wrap it with a promise so that to try to be async. So I don't know basically what it does, but basically it's going to be some interesting stuff that promise or try is doing. So by using promise or try, I can get the same semantic as new promise. Okay. So I mean, there are cool stuff there that is coming to JavaScript. That I've not played around with it right there, but you can always get to see all the different things that are coming. Then this is math.sum precise, which is basically just, I think it's bringing sum, right? When you have values like this. So instead of writing a reduce function, right, you just pass it to the reduce here. So and this is cool, right? So instead of, you don't have to be writing like a function to add something all the time, right? You can just pass whatever values you have, pass it to precise and math.precise, and it just runs with it right there. So I mean, these are cool stuff. And so math.sum is the obvious name, but um it's not obvious that it's going to be a different slow algorithm than the submission. This is called math.sum precise to call the attention to the difference. So yeah, returns positive or negative. And I think it also works with would throw in big int. I think it works with big int as well. So these are like some advantage right there. We could have separate method for summing big int. I did vote for big int.sum, big int.sum from. That's interesting. So let's hope to see what happens to this, the ones in stage 2. And let's look at the other ones here. I think we declare global eval, right? Then you have this joint iteration. I don't know whether they've closed this or not, but it did not. This is still in stage two, and they're not saying anything seriously about it yet. Apologies for the background noise. I think I have some background noise. My baby's crying behind the scene. Mm, yeah, so nothing special about this. Yeah, we have. For me, I don't know so much about all of this stuff. I just read them here and there, right? I don't really. I've not really gone deeper into all of this stuff. But again, I think by now we should all know what a vowel does, right? You know what a vowel does, right? So I think it's a proposal that allows you to use a vowel to run something like this. So basically, maybe it's going to create this, it will be able to create this variable right there. So that's what that does. And if I'm looking for the other ones, the stage one, I'm looking for the stage one ones. For the stage one proposals. So for the stage one proposals would have been for the stage one proposal, the recent ones are is error, right? Error dot is error, just to know whether something is an error or signals. I think everybody is most excited about signals the most, right? Because signal gives us a way to basically add reactivity to JavaScript. Basically, that's what it gives us to, right? So when you declare a counter, right, you can create a function called set counter, right? And it allows you, so anytime anything happens to all these functions here, so set counter is a function takes the value and yeah, and does like this. Let's see. um So basically, it's just a way to keep that state alive and reactive. So this is the ways they're proposing that is going to be. You would have something like signal.state, and we can now have is even. And so anytime the counter increases, right, it will always be telling us whether it is even or not. So these functions are going to be reactive functions, right? That is, as long as this variable is increasing in value, right, it will be able to tell us what exactly is this even, whether it is even, whether it is, is odd or whatever it is. And so we don't have something like this in JavaScript, right? And if you want to do something like this in JavaScript, you probably just use global variable to do this, right? You set a global variable, and then anytime you increase you increase the value, you want to check whether it has become even or it has become odd or something like that. So I mean, it's what is, I don't know, it's coming from a particular framework. I don't know the framework that it's coming from exactly. It's coming from maybe Solid or Quick Work, one of them. That's where it's coming from. But it's a lot. You see that it's a lot of jargons, right? Lots of technical jargons there. But again, the reason why I'm saying this is that if you want to journey with JavaScript to like mastery, right, it's good for you to start getting deep into all these new stuffs and how to apply them, right? That's major reasons why I'm showing you all this, right? Start getting deeper into all this cool stuff and learning how to apply them majorly. And proposal of the error is just to use case when you're debugging or when you're doing serialization or when you're doing a structured clone. I should talk about structured clone today, right? So this is just to tell us if something is an error. So it doesn't have any major stuff outside of that. And what other ones should we talk about? Um, one day I should talk about this ESM import as well. They are cool stuff that I've not talked about. ESM imports are cool stuff that I've not talked about as well. But again, there's always a lot of stuff here, right? A lot of stuff in JS, yeah, and let's look at the finished one there. So we have Nana, we have so this is the new set methods, right? The new set methods are, we have I think we have set dot intersection. Just like if you declare two sets, you can find the intersection between those two sets. Just like when you do your normal set in mathematics, right? When you declare maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you declare a number, another thing, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 9, and you can do the intersection. That is, you can pick the values that are inside both of the sets, right? And you can pick the union, right? The union is what consisting of everything. Then the difference is, I can't remember what the difference is going to be, right? We have differences, we have symmetric difference, we have is a subset of, we have is a superset of, and we have is joined from. So these are cool stuff. These are methods that is coming to sets. And if you don't know what set is a data structure, a data structure that you can just declare by, doing something like this, new set. You can do new set. Can you see my terminal? You can do new set. I think you should be able to do new set, something like this, 1, 2, 3. And so this is how we declare sets in JavaScript. So it's, you have these entries here, right? And set is always unique, right? And it has add, clear, delete, different entries. Oh, so you can see, I didn't even know that we have this in the browser already. For God's sake, I never knew we have this in the browser already. So we have the differences, we have the entries, we have all these guys already, intersection. You have them in the browser already, and I never knew they were already in the browser. So it means this is inside. This is going to be inside Chrome already. So let's try to play with it though. This is interesting. So you can see something like this. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen? Yeah, I believe my screen should be clear. We can do, let's just do a equals to new set. We can do new set 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5, and then we can do this, and then we can do let b equals to new set and square bracket of 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. We can do something like this, and so we should be able to do hey intersection of b, right? And this is cool. So a intersection of b, right, is what you're picking 2 because 2 exists in both places, right? And you're picking 4 because 4 exists in both places. So that is the intersection of that. And I think this is cool, right? This is cool. And we can do b intersection of a, that's the same thing. And then we can do b difference. I think we can do difference of a. So this is going to tell us, like, okay, this difference means that what are the things that are inside of a that is not, what are the things that are inside of b that is not inside of a. So you have 6, right? You have 8, you have 10, right? So these are the cool stuff that set methods bring. And I don't know what symmetric difference does, but um yeah, they are worth knowing, because what this gives you again is, it gives you ways to manage your data very well, right? It's a way to just get powerful with your data structure, right, in JavaScript more. So sets and maps are cool data structure, just like your arrays and objects are cool data structure. And most persons don't use set a lot, right? We rarely use set a lot. Let's see what we can do again there. We can do differences. um Okay, so we can say that it's superset or subset. Hmm. Symmetric difference. Yeah, let's do symmetric difference. Don't know what this is going to be. So this contains 6, 8, then 1, 2, 3. Okay, symmetric difference. Added everything together, excluding just 2 and 5. 2 and 4. Just added everything together, excluding 2 and 5. And you can see that I think you can find uh, there's a lot to there's a lot here. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn. But again, it's not just about learning it though. It's just about learning it and finding a way to add it to your knowledge and use them in project. So another thing is if you want to you can go to can I use. I think you can go to can I use or MDN. I think MDN is the right place to go to. We can go to MDN, or I think I should have one MDN tab here opened, and we can search for set methods. So set methods, and so you can see them here, right? The symmetric difference and a superset of a subset is disjoint, then intersection. So for them, they have limited availability, right? This is like it's only working inside Chrome, right? It's not working properly inside Edge. Then it's not working properly inside Firefox as well, and it works in Safari. So, so that is I mean those are the stuff that you have with set methods there, and it's just a lot, but trust me, they are worth knowing. It's a lot, but they are worth your time if you invest just few minutes to know how they work, how those stuff work right there. And I think the last one that we have there is duplicate name captured. Now I don't know what this is as well. And array dot buffer promise with resolvers. I think I know what this does. So just get used to all these things, right? To know all these things right there. I don't know if anybody knows this. Have you used this before? Has anybody used uh has anybody used this dot group by um hmm, ah, dot group by has been released into JavaScript for a while now, right? It has been released into JavaScript for a while now, which it allows you to group something basically. It allows you to group something. So if you look at the solution here, right, they are grouping based on this array, and you're grouping some things to be what? To be odd, right? You're grouping some things to be odd, or you're grouping some things to be even. And it's pretty much new as well. It's pretty much new. And so we can take this here and put it inside here. So this is an array here, and we can always do, so the method is object.group by, right? And it takes a callback. And the callback is the array. The first array is the first thing. And group by the array, and then you're taking the callbacks. So you can see the array, comma, then the callback, which will be what? Each, comma, then the index of each one of them. And what this allows us to do is that you can see that it has turned the array into it has turned the array into object, right? But you want it to return um array to return the groupings of the array. So to group the arrays into even and odd. So you want to do return if it is if each modulo 2 is equals to 0, right? You want to say it is even, or you want to say it is what, odd. I think so. And this is cool. This is like the coolest stuff ever. Right? It's just your ability to create object out of your normal array. You're welcome, Adiremi. Right? So this is very dope stuff. It's already inside all of our JavaScript. So we're instead of us writing reduce again, instead of you just using reduce to do all this complex stuff, right? You're just able to use the object.group, and I believe that there should be array.group by itself. So we don't have it as an array in itself, so we only have it on objects. That's interesting. So we only have object.group by, and I think we have new map, we have map.group by as well. So these are the only two things that has it here: objects and arrays. So these are, I mean, again, we don't have to write some crazy things, right? You don't have to write some crazy things. And what? This is really dope. Don't just know whether whether they are mutables. They shouldn't be mutables, do I know? And so they're just what they're what playing with, right? They're what playing with. You can play with them to and I think from this year you can also convert this map. You can convert the map to other stuff later, whether you want to convert the map to objects or you want to convert it to any other thing you want to convert it into. So yeah, these are cool. They are cool things there. So basically, what developers use before now for group by is that people just use lodash.group by, right? There is the lodash.group by that everybody uses that, because most of the time you want to group a lot of things in whenever you're working, right? You want to group something. So this group by is something similar to your, using your join directly from your if you're using your join directly from your SQL database, right? For those of us that usually join the Next.js episode, you remember that there is the dot join when you like allows you to fetch data from two tables and join the data together based on a condition. So this is group by, right? You can group by this function, which is all the fours, all the C's will be grouped together right here. So again, these are just like interesting. These are interesting details. I don't know. My system is freezing up. My system is acting up. Uh, hmm. Wow. There's a lot I wish like I could just continue talking about like all these interesting stuff in JavaScript. Like I just wish I should just start showing you all the amazing stuff that you have inside JS. But again, the idea again is for you to to just know these things, right, and start using them and getting the best value out of all the stuff that you're using. So how do you learn them quickly, and how do you quickly use them to, I mean, look at this now. This allows you to group this by the length, so you don't have to write a filter to do this, right? And I mean, this is, that for, again, that is like very, very cool, because you don't have to you don't have to write dot filter, you don't have to write functions. How long does it take for us to be perfect at JavaScript? I feel like, to be honest with you, there is no perfection, right? There is no perfection if you look at it in the real sense. I don't think I'm perfect as an engineer, but I usually say that I know what I know and I know what I don't know, right? I know what I know and I know what I don't know. And I'm not going to tell you the things I'm not going to tell a lie about the things I don't know, right? So I don't know how to answer your question that way, but definitely just be able to like do make sure your foundation is solid. That's the best I can that's the best I can advise you. Make sure you have like a very solid foundation, and you know the basics, you know your basics very well. And if you know your basics very well, everything will fall in place. You know your basics very well, like you know it, then you don't relent. So once you don't relent, then everything would everything will come together if you don't relent, right? Hmm, how do we do this now? Each dot length. Uh, no, 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 no. It is array two. It's array two. So those things that have the length of three, they are grouped together. Those things that have the length of five, they are grouped together. Yeah, this grouping is just magical. Like this grouping thing is just magical. And this is the first time I'm also like playing with it deeper like this. I've used it before, but not too deep. So to be able to group things, I mean you have more power now, right? Just to be able to group things. You have more power just to be able to group things. So that is that on that side. I better start getting into my objects, and hopefully, like I said, one day we will have, Nigerians among the TC39 team. We would have, some of you guys will eventually, be able to join those committees, those teams, and contribute your quota, right, to the world. That's like my long-term goal, my long-term vision, right? You can be a part of all this great stuff that is happening in the whole world right there. But you can't be a part if you don't prepare yourself for that phase, for that higher level where you're very good, you know what you're doing, and you're committed to your trade, you're putting in the hard work, right, that is necessary at every phase of your career. So that being said, I am going to just play with some object stuff today. We're just going to play with some object stuff today, and that should be all. I'm not going to stay so long on the stream today. Then, if you have questions, I think if you have any kind of questions, JavaScript, career, right? I mean, today I'm open right there. So we started the stuff around objects, and I think I can't remember what we did basically in the last time, but I know that um we talked extensively about how to really get the best out of our objects, right? That was majorly what we did, how to declare objects, then how to declare objects, how to what all the CRUDs, like all the create, the reading, the update, and the deleting that can happen on object, right? We talked extensively about it. And if I open my VS Code, I should be able to. If I open my VS Code, I should be able to get um the last stuff that we did. Yeah, the last stuff that we did with object. I should be able to get access to it there. So yeah, the last time out, we were able to declare objects, right? Access the object with the dot name, um, access using square bracket, using the dot bracket notation, or using the square bracket notation. And another thing that I didn't talk about that on the call, but those were things I was supposed to talk about today, right? About the idea of object as references. Anybody knows why objects are always referred to as references? Does anybody know why objects are always referred to as references? Right? Because the major thing about objects is that objects only allows you to objects only allow you to like the way they move around is basically they create a reference right around in the computer's memory, right? Yeah. So when you look at this first example here, we created this obj, right? And you can copy this, like you can create a copy of this obj by assigning copy to be equals to obj. So if you change copy.name, right, copy.name would have affected this obj right here. And that is something that's what you refer to as what references. So if you change the one that was copied, it will affect the original, right? And that's like a very weird behavior. So another thing that you can do is to you can try it out, right? You can try it out in the browser. And if we try it out in the browser, you would see what I'm saying. So let's assume, right, that you create let obj equals to what? Empty object. And if you do copy, let copy equals to what? Obj. And now we can now say copy is equals to what? Obj. And you get your true. Right now, you can say copy is equals to obj because the computer knows that both of them they are connected together through reference. However, if you do a equals to empty object and let what b equals to empty object, and if you do a double equals to b, it will never be the same thing because both of them are two different things. Both of them are two different things, and that is something you need to understand about the behavior of objects, right? References, they are in, yeah, they are so when we modify copy, right, and you do copy dot a equals to 1. So if we check copy now has what? 1 inside. If we check obj now, obj also has 1. Why? Because both copy and both what? Both copy and both obj, they are what? They are what? Both copy and both obj, they are what? They are connected through the reference. So it's just like in the memory of your computer, or in the memory of your computer, right? When you declare obj, it will go and create one copy and put it there. That is that's the original copy. When you now try to reference it with another copy, instead of it creating a new object, it will not create a new object. It will now point the new object to the existing word copy that is in the memory of your computer. And that's what Samuel is referring to when Samuel said what reference to the memory. So it only just takes one copy, and it's that one copy that is going to be taken around. But whereas when you look at this example of what this variable here, right? This one is one copy already, and this is another copy. So both of them, they are never the same thing. Whereas OBJ, this copy and this copy, they are the same thing, and they will always be the same thing. So how do we overcome this referencing behavior of objects? So another thing that we can do right there is that since we still have obj and we still have copy, right? We can always create a clean copy, right? So I can declare and say clean what? Clean copy. So this is going to be a clean or deep copy by doing something we call JSON dot stringify. I think I'm able to do a JSON dot stringify of obj, and eventually I want to do a JSON dot pass. JSON dot pass. Pass. So this is a clean copy. And when I say this is a clean copy, if I change this one and say this is what the value of A has turned to 5 now. If I say the value of this has turned to 5 and I go to obj, if I go to obj, you see that obj still remains what? Obj still remains A colon 1. Whereas if I check clean copy, right? If I check clean copy is now what? A colon 5. So both of them now, they will never, right? They will never be the same thing anymore, right? Because they are now what? Pointing to different what? They are pointing to different references in the memory of your computer. So they are quite very different now. Do we understand how to like do what? How to copy something? Like if you want to do a clean copy of an object so that you won't be copying a referenced version of that thing around. And the first way I talked about is what you can do something we call the JSON.parse, right? You are going to first stringify. After you stringify the object, you pass the object. So this two process, the JSON.parse it, and this is something similar to what serialization, right? It's just you're just serializing this object, convert it to string, and then turn it back into a proper object. And another way we can do this, right? Another way we can do this is we have the Windows dot structured clone. Windows dot what? Structured clone. So Windows dot structured clone can accept the copy, right? Accept the copy, and we can now say this is what another clean copy 2. Let's say clean copy 2. Clean copy 2 equals to this, and clean copy 2, right, is going to be this. And if we change clean copy 2, A equals to what? 10. So clean copy 2, clean copy 2, right? Clean copy 2 is different from copy because we copied it from copy right there. So they are both different from each other there. It doesn't affect each other. So again, just try to also understand that we can always what you can always do what a clean copy or something you refer to as what deep copy. They refer to it as deep copy as well, right? It's called the deep copy. So there is deep clone. There's a deep clone in Lodash. Lodash has another function that we can use to do what? A deep clone. So this is a deep clone right here. You can do deep clone. I think Lodash has that deep clone that we can use as well. So three things you can use: either you use a library called Lodash, right? And or you go for you go for it's either you go for Lodash or you go for JSON.parse, JSON.stringify, or you go for the window.structured clone. The windows.structured clone. So all these methods allow us to create what a clean copy of an object. Martin, good to see you, right? After a very long time. After a very, very, very long time. So majorly that is the way around objects, right? That is your way around object. So don't forget window.structured clone, or you use your JSON.parse and your JSON.stringify. Let me see whether do I have my extensions here? I'm not sure whether I have my extensions here though. um, some of my extensions are here, but that is major thing about that is major thing about that. Then obviously we can also use our object.assign. Do we know that we can use your object.assign to you can use your object.assign to create new copies of objects? Definitely, I know you should know that, right? I know you should know that by now. Most of us should know that by now. That is, if we have, I think if we have obj, so if I want to create a new copy, then I could do obj.assign, right? And I can assign a new copy, just do like an empty version, and source. I want this to be obj right there, and that's going to give me a new what? New obj right there. And I think new obj. So if you look at new obj is being created. And if we change this to 10, let's see, does it change obj? Yeah, it doesn't change obj as well. So the object that assigned to is a clean, I think it helps us to do a clean copy as well. But I'm not sure whether it copies nested objects. um so that is that. I mean, you can also use your for in when you use your for in loop. You can use your for in loop to also create you can use your for in loop to create clean copies of different stuff like that. The for in loop can also work as well. And another thing that we can also use is the spread syntax, object spread. How many of us remember object spread? Do we remember object spread? Do you remember object spread? So this is obj. So if you want to create another copy, you can then do let new obj2 equals to curly brackets dot obj. And yeah, so you can always look at new obj2, and this is this here. And I think that we can update this to you can do this to be 10. And does it change the obj? Yeah, it doesn't touch the obj. So both creating new copies and creating and merging, right? Your spread allows us to create new ones or allow us to merge. That is, if we have obj2, you can say obj2, let's just say let obj2 equals to what? B colon 1 or B colon 2. And you can join those two objects together, right? You can join those two objects together and say let joined equals to what? Open object, and then you can spread the first one, comma, and spread the second one. You can spread the first one and you can spread the second one. And so we can have joined, and it's an entire new object right there for us to use. So that's a cool thing there, cool stuff right there. And any questions about object cloning? Right, we have the structured clone, right? And so the structured clones, it takes so you see the deep copy as well, the clone deep also right there. You can always use the clone deep right there, they also work. Hmm. So garbage collection, right? That is a way in which JavaScript manages the memory. So garbage collection is performed automatically in your JavaScript, unlike some other programming language where you have to manually destroy the variables. But in JavaScript, the JavaScript compiler does it for us. So when we create variables, whether they are primitives, that is your string numbers, big ints, and your booleans, or you create objects, or you create symbols, or you create functions, all those things, they are stored in the memory. All right, they are stored in the memory. So when you don't use them anymore, right, when you don't need them anymore, how does your JavaScript compiler destroys them, right? That's the idea of what garbage collections. That is, the garbage are collected automatically. So the main concept of memory management is what? Reachability. Simply, reachable values are those that are accessible, right, or usable somehow. They are guaranteed to be stored in the memory. Because you just declared a variable now, and hence we can use that variable, is because it is reachable, right? The moment there is a base set of inherent reachable values that cannot be deleted for obvious reasons, right? So the moment you don't need anything again, and those variables are not reachable. So for example, earlier I created array, right? I created an array and it's no longer available here. Why? Because it has been garbage collected, right? Because you're not using it anymore. And so because it has been garbage collected, you cannot, like, you cannot have access to it anymore, right? Because it is not reachable anymore. And um that is what that means right there. So understanding that the moment something is not reachable, right, JavaScript sort of clears it out or cleans it out, right? It cleans it out, right? And JavaScript engine does it for you, right? So you don't have to manage your JavaScript garbage collection by yourself, right? JavaScript does the garbage collection yourself, right there. Since I've been working on performance a lot lately, and you also want to understand that the more you declare objects and the large or the inconsistent structures in the object, the more difficult your application becomes, right? Because most of the time we just declare objects anyhow in our applications because you don't care. But those are the issues, right? When your compiler has to create like 1 million copies of the object, right, those becomes problem for your compiler and your computer. And that's when you start having what you have memory problems easily in our computer. So that about that. I can quickly talk about the this method. I think if we say something like, oh, let's say person equals to name, and you can say name is Ojo right here. And if you say person, you say person, um so you can say that maybe we can say person dot maybe say hi, or something like greet. So this is going to be a function, right? A function. And what this function does is what? It console.logs what this, right? Or it control so console.log this dot say this dot name. So if I call person dot name, and I call person dot what? Say hi, and I call it. So it will log this, because I said that anytime I am getting to what person dot say hi, just log this dot name. So what is this now in this picture? If I come back here and I do a console dot what? A console dot log this. So you would understand that what my this now is pointing to what? My this is pointing to the object. So basically, when I define this, I tell people that the this is pointing to what the this is pointing to what the object that what. So for example, we are saying person dot what say hi, right? So if you want to evaluate the this of this now, what will be the value of what the this here? This person will be the value here, because this person is the object that this say hi is attached to. And that is like a simple way for you to understand the value of this within objects. So anytime you have method, what is method? Methods are functions, right? Anytime we have a function inside of an object, that is a method. However, some of this method can what use this. And the reason why you might want your function, right, your method to use this is because you want it to target you want it to target the you want it to target the what you want it to target the object that created it, right? That is the thing that created that particular method. That's what you want to operate the this on. So this is a common concept in JavaScript that definitely is very very tricky for people to understand, but just see it as what it's just the object. It is the object that created, that initiates that method, that owns that this. It is the object that initiates that this, that owns it right here. So in this example that I have on my screen, right, the owner of the this, right, the owner of this here is going to be what? User, because it is this user that owns this here. So that is the way for you to know what that is. So however, now if you look at this scenario, right, they are changing what they are cloning. You're cloning your user into admin, right? And you're setting your user to be null, right? We're setting our user to be null. And when you are asking for the this now, right, admin.say hi, right, it won't be able to what? It won't be able to what? To understand that there is what this, because this inside of this admin is looking for what? Admin is looking for the reference to what? Is looking for the reference to this user. And you have said that the reference is null. And so now it will now be telling you that cannot see what? It does not understand something called null right there. So again, we can always use bind. We can always use our bind and our what? Bind, call, and apply, right? Bind, call, and apply to what? To get our this to work, even if the object has been destroyed, right? So that is another very tricky thing about what. And also you have to understand that methods that are created with arrow function does not have these. Methods that are created with arrow function, they do not have what these. So this is the example of what I am saying. I'm going to show you one example of situations where I think no, this is not what I want. Control Shift, this new JavaScript file. And for everybody that is joining me on the stream today, thank you so much for joining me. I have like 11 persons from YouTube. Thank you for joining me, and I really appreciate. For my Twitter folks, thank you as well. Thank you as well. So here we can say something like let's say Timmy equals to so you can say this name equals to Timmy. This is my name, and I can definitely give myself a function, right? I can say maybe greetings, greet, and I can say that this greet is a function that says that hello, my name is this. So this is a this is a JavaScript object that has what? This is a property that is a name and value, and we also have what? A name, a method that is this method has its own word name, and this is the value right here. So you can either write your method like this, or you use the shorthand method, right? You can use the shorthand method. It also works. Or you can also use the I think we can use the getter and the setters as well. We can use the getter and the setter approach, but let's just stick with this. So yeah, we can say Temi one dot greet, right, is going to log this now, right? Hello, my name is Shetemi. All right. And let's say we duplicate, we create a copy of what? A copy. So you want to say hmm, copy copied copied object, right? Copied object is equals to so if you create this copy and if you call this greet, so if you copy this greet now, you see that what this greet is still pointing to what this copied object is still calling the first one, right? And so let's say we can say copied object dot name equals to maybe instructor. And so you see that the moment we change the name to instructor, and when you are now asking for copied object dot greet, you are now getting what? Hello, my name is what? Instructor. Can JSON.stringify work as local storage in JS? No, no, no. Boss said it cannot. JSON.stringify cannot work as local storage. You know that local storage is how do I say this now? Local storage. So local storage is an API, right, that allows us to it's an API that allows us to store different things, right? We can now store different things, yeah, and so we can local storage dot set. We can set maybe we can set to do, right, to do's, and we can say maybe a colon 1 b colon 1 b colon 2 and you can also local storage this. How do I play with this local storage again in a very short way? So you can see that we have this here. Definitely it did not save this. Local storage, let's go to MDN so that I can local storage. So read-only memory, right? We can store something by setting item, and you can get something out by using the get item. However, if you want to put something inside of it, now you can see that with what I have here, I can't see the things I saved here. So to save it properly would have been what? Would have been best for me to do what? Before I save it, to do what? A JSON dot what? Stringify, right? And I pass my object to the JSON or stringify. So if I save this now, right, I should be able to now see the things I have, right? So you can see now that what it has saved now because so if I want to get it back now, I'm able to now do local storage dot what get, right, what is the key that I used to save? The key that I used to save is what? To do's. And if I get it to do's, it's going to give me this back, right? So it's giving me the string back. So if I want to use it again, I need to do what? I need to do a JSON dot what? JSON dot pass, right? That is convert what local storage is sending, which is a string, convert it back to what? Proper object back for me to use. So if I get your question right, can I have can JSON or stringify work as local storage? No, JSON or stringify does not work as local storage. What JSON or stringify is what? It takes anything that is a valid serializable value, it turns it into string. If you call the JSON or stringify, it will turn it into string, right? If it's an array, if it's an object, whatever, so long as it is a It's part of the serializable value that JSON, um, the JSON class or the JSON constructor expect is going to turn it into a string. And that is what JSON dot what stringify. However, you can also use the JSON dot pass, which also takes whatever was JSON dot stringified, it will now turn it into what the normal value it was, whether it is the array or whether it is the object. I don't know whether it answers your question, but they cannot work. They cannot work as yes, we only use JSON.stringify to convert something into string, and we only use JSON.pass to also convert something into odd. Except you want to use it together. If you remember the way I used JSON.stringify and JSON.pass to convert something to convert to do a deep copy, right? That's another advantage, right, that you can do right there. That's another beautiful advantage right here. So I hope I answered your question there. So right now here with this copied, if I delete, you'll see where the problem is going to happen. Now, object assign, this works, right? Good. Let's say I create a copy without, if I create a copy without using object.assign, let's just create a copy without using object.assign. So let's duplicate this and comment this out. We'll comment this out and we use, let's just create a copy of this without using object.assign. So now we've used the copy of this. And if I call what? I've changed the name of the copied. I've changed the name of the copied. But why is the name not changing? So I've changed the name to instructor. And so after this, now the name must have changed. So the name has changed to instructor, right? The name has changed to instructor. And if I call my words, if I call this object.greet on it right here, before we call this object.greet, let's say we turn, we do we say something like Temi equals to null. Let's do this here. Temi equals to null. Or better still, before we create a copy of this, right? Let's just say Temi equals to null right there. And or maybe Temi.name equals to null. Let me see the example again that we have in our JavaScript.info. Okay. I get it now. So instead of using this.name, so if we use a user.name here, and anytime we try to call this now, it will be throwing an error that, well, there is nothing called, oh, sorry, we can see this is going to be Temi, right? And then you see this error throw, right? We're throwing this error, right? Cannot read property of what? Of null, because we are setting what? We're set this object to be null. So that's why anytime you're using methods, it is best to use these, right? To use this inside of the object, right? So even if you delete the original reference or you delete all the original copies, right, your object will still be intact. Your object will still be intact and available for you to use right there. And what other thing do we have with objects? Arrow function does not have these. Most of the time, we run into this problem a lot because arrow function does not have these. However, there's a way to make arrow function have these, right? But I'm not interested in teaching you that. But just assume and know for now right? The arrow function does not have this. You can always bind your arrow function. You can always bind or call or apply your arrow functions, right? To make sure that they have their Ds, but that's too much of problems, right? So you just make sure to not use arrow function. Inside of arrow function, don't use these, because the this is going to be pointing towards the global windows. However, you can still use your Ds if you know what you're doing, right? Because again, see it as like within my arrow function, if I use this, it is going to be windows. That's basic. And if I'm within a normal function, right, the normal function declaration or a normal function expression, and I use this, then definitely the value of my this is going to be the object that called the method. It's going to be the object that called the method, right? So that is something that you should always put at the back of your mind or at the front of your mind, right? Just understanding the value of this for objects is very key. Again, the simple way is that the object that called the method, right? That object that called that method is the owner of the this, right? The closer the object is, right, the more it will be the owner of the value of this right there. So that is very critical, right? And I think I should say that again. It is very, 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 very critical. Understanding the behavior of this, right, in our object, understanding the behavior of this in our object. Also, right, alongside with understanding the value of these, we also have what the constructor keyword, right? The constructor keyword, which is what the constructor operator, which is new. So how do we use the new stuff right there? So basically, the simplest way to really talk about this is that we can create what a function by saying person, right? Person. And this takes what? It takes only name right there. And we say this dot what? Name equals to name, right? This person here is what? It's a constructor function. Why is it a constructor function? Because first, this capital casing here is signifying it's a constructor function. So how do we call this constructor function, right? We're calling this constructor function by saying new person equals to this, and you're going to say what person. You can log person now, and you can see that person is this. So the same way, we can also create what? I can create Stanley, right? I can create Stanley. I can say what new person is Stanley. I can create Bosse. Let's say a Bosse D, right? So we can create new Adiremi, right? So again, you can, so you have it, you have it there, right? You can just, and you have all these. So what thing that we are starting off is that person is now what? Instance of what? Person is now instance of capital what? Person. And this is what? A valid true. That is, this person object was created from this big person. Person what? This small person here, which is the object, was created from this what? Person constructor right there. So that's another very interesting thing to know about your words. And again, if you struggle to understand what is going on inside of this place, what does this mean? So what this means is, assume that what? It is creating what? These to be what? Creating these to be what? Empty object, right? Creating this to be empty object, and it is returning what? It is returning what? These right there. And that is what is happening behind the scene. So what your computer is doing, so we have OBJ, we have object basics part B. We have object basics part B. So what your computer is doing behind the scene is what? Is declaring this empty object for you, and is returning that empty object right there. And that is something that you must always remember. That is something that you must always what? Remember. That's something you must always remember. So yes, we can create multiple instances of person, right? We can create multiple instances of person right there. And we have, like you can see here now, we have all these instances that we have, right? We have all these beautiful instances, right? Behind all these beautiful instances behind the scene right there that was created for us to use, right? So yeah, these are all the beautiful instances that we have. So again, understanding the new keyword, right? This new keyword is what is the reason why we can do this. And I've also said that if the new keyword is not specified, right, you can write a way to specify it. You can find a way to specify the new keyword right there. So so if that new keyword is not specified, right, you can find a way to, if new underscore target, if new dot target is not returned. Mm. So let's just do that again. So here, if somebody calls this if not new dot target, right? If not new dot target. So you can allow them to, it's either you throw an error and say what? The person must be called with new, right? So yeah, if they call the person with this now, let's say I want to create a copy of for Waris now. Huh. Samuel is asking what we do in React is constructor. Hmm. How do I answer your question now, Samuel? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Because something means it starts with capital letter is doesn't mean it's constructor. Hmm. But what you want to do is that the case of for the case of React, honestly, you just need to maybe watch some of the classes. There's a particular class where I talked about. If you go and watch some of the live classes, and if you check some of the streams here that I did here, I also talked about like understanding what React really means when you do React dot something or you do React dot create element right there. But because React is capital doesn't mean it is like a constructor like that. So I don't want you to take it out of context and say that everything that has capital is now constructor. Don't take it out of context, because if you want to take it out of context, is math a constructor? Is math a constructor? No, math is not a constructor, right? Because it doesn't create a new copy of an object, right? You don't want to take it out of the context. We don't use new React in our React. Do we use new React in our React? Do we do something like this in our React? No, we don't. Right? Because we don't do something like this, so it means that React does not fall under like certain things of constructor. And when you even create your components in React, right? Say you create a component in React, when you want to use your component, do you do new name of the component before you're able to use the component? Do we do something like this? Component before we're able to use the component? No, we don't, right? We don't. So it means that that's why you don't want to mix these things up. The reason why person here is a constructor is because, right, the way this person is being used here, especially because your computer is saying this dot something, then the computer already knows. And this is something similar. I thought I said it's similar to class. Do we remember that I said it's similar to class? How many of us remember that I said they are both similar to class? Right there. I said that what? It is similar to classes as well, right? Constructor. I think. No. Is this like this? Sorry, it should be like this. Sorry. This is the way to use class. So if we want to do class now, then we can do new person equals to let class class temi equals to this, and both of them are going to be the same thing. That you can do class temi right there, and it's still the same thing. So it has created. So constructors are what if we define constructors like in simple word? Constructors are just what? Functions that helps us to create objects, right? Do you agree with me? Constructors are what? They are functions that helps us to create objects. And let's see, if we go into the browser and play with something inside of our browser, we can also do like new. If you do new event, and you say something like event.click, what did we just do? What did we just do? What did we just do? What is E? So E is an object, right, that was created from what? The event constructor. And I think that we also have something like, I think we have like keyboard, and we can say E dot, I think dispatch. Is it dispatch? I can't remember. Dispatch event. I think you got something like dispatch, and you can pass E there, and you're able to do that there. Yeah. So we can create maybe a keyboard event, right? You can create a keyboard event, right? So this is a keyboard event, right? And it's a keyboard event. And so to create a keyboard event, it has a type. So maybe you can say something like on key, or you can say key down, right? If you give it something there, right, it will create a key. It will create what? It will create this for you right there. And you can create what other constructors do we have? I think we have HTML. So this HTML element now is not a constructor. It's not a constructor. And if you look at this now, because this is why it is good for us to clear. So this HTML element is not a constructor. The HTML element is an interface. The HTML element there is an interface, not a constructor. So HTML element dot. So it allows you to just see all the possible things, right? All the possible names and all these properties there, right? It's an interface, not a constructor. Math is not what? A constructor, right? Just it's more like a class, or more like a special object, right? Or a how do we call it now? A static uh a static method or static object thereabout that we can always use in our code. So that is that about that. I'm trying to remember any other constructor. I think new audio element, I think something like that. Abort signal, right? You can always use them as constructors. You can use your XML or new XML, HTTP, XML, HTTP request also, right? Falls under that category as well, right? What other thing falls as a constructor? I think performance observer, performance observer as well, performance observer as well. So you can put a function right there, right? You just put any function there. So performance observer is a constructor. Um, resize observer as well. We have resize observer, right? resize observer. It's also a function as well. It's also a constructor as well. So these are constructors that you should be aware of. And I think if you call it there, it will tell you that, well, I need you to pass me new before you can call me. I need to pass me new before you can call me. Then we also have we have mutation observer, right? You have mutation observer, right? And you also have this as well. So those are constructors that you use your constructors to create multiple copies of what? Multiple copies of object. We use them to create multiple copies of what? Objects, right there. Another you can always do something like this in your constructor, right? You can always force a return, but this is not ideal, right? This is not ideal, but we can always do this, right? You can force a return to happen. So anytime you initialize big user, you would always have what? Godzilla, because they are forcing this return to happen, right? But naturally you don't need to have this return here, right, to make it work. And you can create multiple methods in your constructor as well. You can create methods in our what, whether it is a static method or so. A static method is a method that you don't need to instantiate the object before you use it. A static method is what? A method that you don't need to instantiate before you use, right? So for example, now this say hi, if I want to use this say hi, I must first create an object, because it is the object that is created from this constructor that we now have name and that we have say hi inside. So here John was created from this new user, and so that's why you can do John dot what say hi and John dot what name, right? But however, there are times where you go ahead to create, for example, now I can, if I do person dot what, person dot maybe sum, right, and I say this is a function. So this means that I don't need to create new instance before I use some. I just need to say something like this, and I can wrap this result right here, and it will work. So some in this situation here is what is static method, right? That is, it is not attached to the instance, but it's attached to the class itself, or it's attached to the constructor itself, right? So that is a little bit about that right there. And I think there's something. mm, So if we want to do something like this, let me try our intelligence a little bit. So if we want to do, normally in your promise, we have promise dot. So we have promise dot something like this dot then, right? And when you are done again, you can do another dot then. So let's assume that I give you a work, right, to do person dot say hi, right? Person dot say hi dot say hi dot say hi. Can anybody do this? Can anybody do this? Can anybody try this out? So all we just need to do is what we need to do, this dot say hi, right? If you do this dot say hi, and you say it's going to be a method, so we pass it to our functions, right? And when you pass our function, we say this is console.log, and you return this afterwards. And the moment you return this, right, and you see that what you can call what, we can now call our person dot what. You can now call your we can now call our what. You can now call say person one, and you can do we can do something like this. So you can do person person one dot say hi. So if you look at it here now, it's going to say hi how many times? 3 times. Say hi the first time. When it calls say hi the first time, it will log this and return this, right? Return the whole object again. And you can call it the second time because inside of the object that is returned, right, it's going to be what name and say hi. So you can call another say hi, which is the second time, and you can call another say hi again, like that, like that. So this is how they do what, this is how they achieve what your training, right? You know that in your array, you can do something like array dot what, array dot map, right? You can do array dot map. When you are done with array dot map, you can do array dot filter, right? And you can do array dot reduce, like that. You can keep chaining them together, and that is the way to achieve that with the help of your dot this right there. So that's worth knowing. That's another cool trick that is worth knowing. Another cool trick that is worth knowing. And finally, I think maybe before I call it a day, we have optional chaining. I think by now we all know what the advantage of optional chaining is, right? The advantage of optional chaining is that in this situation here, when you do user to be empty object and you ask for user.address.street, because address does not exist inside of what user, and you're asking for street, so you are going to get a error, and the error is going to be the what, cannot access address of undefined, right? So if you access this, it will say that cannot read what, street of undefined, right? So in a bit to save this, save us this problem right here, right, we can always, let's just take this into our browser. And so if you put, so if you do this here, and we can now do user optional chaining dot what address and optional chaining dot street, and it's not going to throw any error anymore, right? Because you're doing an optional chaining right there. And so it's not going to throw an error. So for our optional chaining, you can use the optional chaining with your arrays or your methods as well. You can use the optional chaining with arrays, with your methods as well. You can use the optional chaining with your arrays, with your method as well. So that is another cool stuff right there. So so here, look at this again. You can, when you do a query selector of a particular element and you're asking for the inner HTML, and this one here, document or query selector is returning null. So if it is returning null, right, you want to catch that null by putting the optional chaining there, right? So most times, instead of using ternary like this, right, you can just use your optional chaining, right? Your optional chaining solves that problem for us. And our optional chaining only not only works with just accessing property of object, also works with functions, right? They work with functions, it works with arrays, right? It works with the square bracket notation. So here you can do user optional chaining of admin, right? User optional chaining of admin. The user optional chaining of admin, right? That is um that is possible. User optional chaining of admin. And you can also do what, user optional chaining using what, square bracket what notation, right? We can use the square bracket notation right there. We can use the square bracket notation. We can use the square bracket notation right there. So with optional chaining as well. So optional chaining is very good for our objects, right? So the summary here is you can either access a single property, or you can access the square bracket notation, or you can access the method, right? You can access the method using optional chaining right there. And the last thing, I mean, or second to the last thing that we want to talk about is symbols. So basically, symbols are, I mean, the reason why symbols are here, symbols are major stuff that are used in React. I don't know whether I've told you before that symbols are the major stuff that we use in your React. But basically, we use our symbol to create unique identifier, basically, right? It allows us to create so our object, by extension, the key of your object can only be string and symbol. The key of your object can only be what? String or a symbol. So the major thing there, right there, for object, for symbol, is that we use the symbol to hide something, right? You use them to hide some hidden implementation away from our user to be able to see. So right, so let's say we create this user here, which is so name is visible, and you then create this id called symbol. So if you pass this id into this object and call it one, right, if you log this object, you won't see the symbol there. And that's major stuff that symbols are literally like used to do, right? Majorly, that's what they are used to do. So our symbols are skipped by our foreign, right? Symbols are skipped by our foreign. And what else? There's a method that allows us to access. There's a method that allows us to access our global symbols and the local. So we have the global symbols, and you can. So let's say we create this sim and sim2. So if we want to get the name here, right? If you want to get this name here, so you can do a symbol.key for, which helps us to get the name of the object there. And we have inbuilt system objects. We have inbuilt system object like system or symbol.as instance, symbol dot is concat spreadable. So this symbol dot is concat spreadable. This is the reason why you can spread array, or this is the reason why you can spread object, because they have inherited what? This is concatable, is concat spreadable. Then symbol dot iterator is the reason why you can look through something, right? Because the prototype has this symbol.iterator inherited, and then the same thing to symbol.primitive. So if something inherits symbol.primitive, then it means you can convert it to whether number, convert it to symbol, convert it to object, convert it to boolean. Basically, you can do that here. So that's the major thing there with symbols. And if you go back to um if you go back to our, let's just go back to our code to just show some small examples. So when you're creating a new object, if you're creating a new object, let's say advance is this, and I can say maybe name, all right, is equals to advance there. And so if name is equals to advance here, if we go ahead and create a symbol off the top, so we can say let id equals to what? Symbol of what? id. And we can now say that, well, this is square bracket of id here, and you can see that what? This is React. Let's just say this is React.js. And so if we do a foreign, if you do a foreign here, and you console.log this here, so if you do this for in here, right, you see that it's not bringing, it's just giving us the name. However, our symbol is still there. Right? So symbols are hidden, like it's a way to hide some things inside of your object that you don't want people to know about. And it also they have default ones that allow you to do some default behavior, right? Whether your iterables or your primitive conversions, or different ones here. So technically, symbols are not what, they are not hidden right there, because there is what, a particular API called what, object. Uh, you don't want to even. I don't think you want to hide object password inside of your code for any reason, because again, what I'm going to talk about now, this object dot what get own property symbols, right? Object dot get own property symbols now. So we can do object dot so we can do advanced dot own get own property symbols. Hmm. I think it should be capital object. I think it should be capital object, and then it should be symbols in between, which is advanced. Should give us, should log. So you can see that this method, right, will log the symbol that we have, which is ID. So you don't want to do what? You don't want to do something like this. Can it log the value? That's something I don't know. I've not tried whether it can log the value. So let's open MDN. Let's open MDN. You know that it's been a while I've played with all these things here. Hmm. So does it show symbol dot for? Yeah, look at it, shows the value here. It will show the value. Reflect will show the value. And reflect is also standard as well. So what is reflect? Reflect is what? A namespace object that contains static method for invoking interceptable JavaScript objects, internal methods. These methods are the same as what proxy handlers. So reflect is something similar, very close to your proxy, right? Very close to your proxy. And what is proxy? Proxy is a way to create some interesting things, right? Some values that you can get and set instantly from that's what proxies basically has. So reflect has some static methods, right? That like apply, like construct, define property, like delete property, dot get, then reflect.get home property descriptor, reflect.get prototype, reflect.has, reflect.is extensible, reflect.prevent extension, reflect.set, reflect.set prototype. And so when you have this reflect will tell you if a symbol is inside of an object or not. It will always tell us if a symbol is inside of an object or not. So that's why you don't want to. I don't know how React is using symbol per se, right? But maybe if I check the code base again, I've not checked it that deep, but I know that um so we symbol dot ordinary symbol like this. I think there's a difference between the ordinary symbol and the symbol dot for. Symbol dot for creates global, right? I think symbol dot for creates global, and the ordinary symbol creates local. So I think so. Um, the symbol dot for, yeah, the symbol dot for are what, the global ones, right? Yeah, it's checking the global registry, right? It's checking the global registry whether this exists, and the ordinary symbol like this creates the local ones. So that is your, and then you have inbuilt ones as well. We have inbuilt symbol, and the key for help us to, so if you look at here, you have your global with what, your symbol dot for, and you have your local with ordinary symbol here. And if you do what, symbol dot key for your local, it will tell us what, oh, this is the particular thing here. And for your local there, it will tell you that it was not defined, right? Because it does not understand it there. So you have three faces of your symbols, right? Which is what the local, the global, and the system default ones that you have. However, your what your get own property what property get own property symbol will list out all the symbols that you have. And I think your reflect, right? Your reflect, do we have reflect in node? Okay, we have reflect in node. Reflect dot has or reflect dot key of advanced. Is it keys or key now? Is it reflect dot key or reflect dot keys? I think it should be reflect dot keys. Oh, reflect dot own keys. Reflect dot own keys. Reflect dot own keys. Own keys. Okay, so reflect dot own keys will show you that we have what name and symbol. Reflect dot own keys will show us what. Hmm. There's a lot in JavaScript though. There's a lot there. I've not used to reflect. I've not had any reason to use reflect at all as well. So I really don't really know so many use cases for reflect. Both reflect and proxy, I've not had reasons to use them per se like that. So I don't know many use cases for them, right? Yeah, so until I maybe get into situations where I can use them. And the last thing there is that we can always convert this. You can always create a way to convert your object to primitive. For example, now the idea is it has a conversion rule that you can always read, right? But the idea here is that so when you do your alert of an object, if you do the alert of an object, what happens? How many of you know that if you do the alert of an object, do you notice what happens? If you do the alert of an object, do you know what happens? So let's say we do the alert. Do we have any object here? We have user, so user.name equals to maybe JS. And so we can do alert of user. So you can see that our alert is only understands string. So alert tries to convert this user to string, and this is what was returned back. Right, this is what was returned back. So if you want to maybe streamline it down, you want to do alert dot what? Maybe user dot what? User dot name, and this would work. Right? This would work. And this will work. So how can you write a how can you write a alert that would alert the object, right? How do you write the alert that will write that your object can know? So you can definitely do something like this now. We can now incorporate our symbol, right? And so this is what symbol, and it is using a global symbol called symbol to primitive, right? And this symbol dot primitive is a method, right? You're passing it a int and you're logging the int, and you're saying that what if the int is what a string, this is what should be returned, and this is what should be returned. So let me play down a little bit on this, and this is the last thing I'm going to do before I call it a day. So what this is saying is like naturally you can't convert anything that is an object, you can't convert object to string, right? So we've written, I think we have some object off the top here. So if we have person, let's say we have person. Yeah, we've written person today. You can't say person dot to string. It's not gonna work. That's not even gonna work. It's not gonna work because person is what? A object that was created. And that person, even though it knows that there is dot to string, it knows that there is something called dot to string, because dot to string is in the root of what? Dot to string is in the root of all of our objects. So if you check your capital object, dot to string is there. Let's say dir of object. You will see that I think object, yeah, which you will see that dot to string should be somewhere here. I think maybe under the prototypes, but there must be dot to string somewhere there. So you can see that there is dot to string inside of our object. So it knows that there is a prototype called dot to string. But the way dot to string was programmed to work is that dot to string only takes, like, just give me one single value. So maybe you give me something like 7, or let's say you say let num equals to 7 or 9, and you can say num dot to string. This is what I am programmed to do. This is what dot to string knows how to do. But when this num is now an object, dot to string does not know what to do, right? And that's what we call object to primitive. So you can now control what will happen if you want to convert a object to a string, or you want to convert a object to a number. So basically, what I am saying in essence is that when you want to convert this object to string, you can now write what? You can write your own function that can help you to handle that behavior. And so the way to write it there is to just we can do person square bracket of symbol, and you want to do open bracket of, I think, has primitives. I think it should be symbol dot to primitive. It should be symbol dot. I just copy this, and we can. So you can put this here, and this is going to be this is like a method, right? This is going to be a method that you are creating, and you can console.log what? This int. So now, so let's assume that I now say person dot what? Person dot to string, and I call this function. It's not working. It's not doing what I want it to do. Do we have person? It's supposed to log something for me. I think it's supposed to log something. It is working. It's supposed to log something, but it's not logging something. It's not logging something. It is supposed to log something. Okay. Can I? Does to string not call this? Can we do this? Okay. So I think if we do that, I can't remember how this works. Maybe I'm going to pick up from this in the next class, right? So that I want to really explain this, because there might be instances of when to use this and when not to use this in our code. It's worth knowing that sometimes you can have reasons to convert your object to a particular, maybe a single value. Yeah, there can be situations where you want to convert your object to a single value, whether a string or a number, depending on the situation. So in this situation, this is working for the dot to string, and this is working for the default values, whether number or you're trying to convert to Boolean, right, or any other format, right? So this is what will always happen. So basically, these methods here are just handling they will be the ones to handle the conversion, or you use your the symbol dot primitive here to control what happens. That is based on the int that is being passed, whether it is what a string int or a default int. It should do a particular thing here. So I think it's something I want to really teach properly, and I'm going to really pick up from there in the next episode of my next stream. So if I get the opportunity to come up next week, Friday, I'm going to pick up from this object to primitive conversion. It is very key to have an idea of how this works behind the scene. That is, when you try to add two objects together, or when you try to subtract, or when you try to alert, or when you try to do dot to string on a object, right? What happens behind the scene? So it's just for us to have an idea of those things um how those things sort of like work behind the scene. How can I trigger the string version of this? I need a way to trigger the string version of this. I need a way to trigger the string version of this. Okay, this is what I was trying to do. I know that when I do this, I'm going to get the string version of this. So but I'm going to talk more about it next episode of my stream, and I'm going to be focusing more around just like the defaults, the string int, int the string int, and what, and default what, int. So I will pick up from there, right, in the next episode. So I mean, that will be all for today. If anybody has any question, you can hit me up. Any question, any concern, and stuff like that. Any question, any question. If you have any question, I'm open. After that, would have the opportunity to go to data types, and under data types would have methods of primitives, numbers, strings, arrays, array methods, iterables, maps and sets, weak maps and sets, object keys, values, entries, destructuring, date time, JSON. I think this next one should be something very smooth for us to be able to achieve. So I mean, we're getting closer to our target, right? We're getting closer to our target right there. For those of us who have not joined our Next.js stream, the Next.js stream has been interesting. It's going to continue tomorrow. I can't remember what I can't remember what the URL of that Next.js thing is again. The Next.js app is I can't remember the URL, where that URL is. But I think if I open this Next.js, if I open this, I should be able to get the URL. So tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about Next.js. Majorly, I'll be talking about Next.js tomorrow, and it should be 3 o'clock. Sorry, it should be 3 o'clock my own time, EST, right? But it's going to be like your 9 o'clock, right? It's going to be your 9 o'clock, depending on uh it should be 9 o'clock thereabout. So we've been working on this beautiful little app here. We have our dashboard, and it uses Next.js. We have a database, and we've learned a couple of interesting stuff, right? We learned a couple of interesting stuff. We have the invoices there. I mean, creating this was very interesting though. Very interesting because we're able to we're able to add pagination. We're able to add pagination. So page one, page two, and we're able to add page three. And yeah, we were also able to add new invoices. I think we're able to search as well. We're able to search. Shit, me. So that's the beautiful thing there. The search works. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty much very cool, and you can create. And I think this is the most interesting part here, where I like so much. You're able to you're able to create stuff there, and you can select whether it was paid or not. And yeah, it works like magic. It works like magic there, and you can see the record there, and you can update the record. You can change it to. You're catching up so fast. How do you sleep at all, Silas and Stanley? uh can newbies in JavaScript also join the next.js stream? Yeah, basically you can join, but you would have missed a lot. So if you want to check my YouTube channel, because I've I've been covering all these things I've been covering them for a while now. So you want to just catch up a little bit on the YouTube channel to see the previous stuff that we've been doing. And we you can catch up. So if you check this, we have I think we have like part four. I think we've had like part four here. We have part four. So we have part four, part three, part two, and yeah. And funny thing is, I think this stream here has the most view that I've ever had. That's like 590 something views thereabout. The starting next.js concept there. Jesus Christ. Stanley, you're coding 24 hours. The last time I was coding like this was when I wanted to get a job. That was like when I wanted to get a job, I was coding this crazy. Like, I was just coding there, and I was coding like all my life depended on it. But it's good to be able to like code now and build stuff. To be able to like build all these amazing stuff. So you want to catch up on this next.js concepts. This is the part one, then the part two, then the part three, the part four, and tomorrow is going to be the part five. And tomorrow we're going to be doing like error handling and some other cool stuff. And and yeah, yeah, yeah. I think what I said is we're going to also take this forward a little bit and build another interesting project, right? We'll build our own interesting project that we can learn from. That's what we're going to do next. So yeah. And if you're not able to watch the stream, there's another very fast way you can use to catch up. You can go to learn next.js. So if you go to learn next.js, right, you're able to just you're able to follow up yourself, right? So you're able to follow up on the React stuff and the next.js stuff as well. So you're able to just follow all those things. So I'll look forward to tomorrow to see the stuff that we're able to do tomorrow. See you guys tomorrow. Thank you for joining, and bye for now.